Hello bookish friends in the internet, welcome and welcome back to my channel. My name is Drew and this is Drew's Ambitious Reading, and I am here with a fun video to make for you guys. I am here to do, drum roll please, I am here to do my March wrap up. March was an amazing reading month. I read a total of 10 books, and I know 10 is not a lot to some people, but for me lately, first month I read 11, second month I read 12, and now I read 10. So I'm about 30 something books into the year so far, and I have a great stack of books to talk about today. And a majority of these were read for Spring Into Reading, which is a readathon hosted by my friends Mel, Kaylani, and Clint. I'll leave all their channels down below, and you should definitely go follow them. They are all three amazing people. Sorry, I'm trying to get these in a stack. That way it's easier for me to grab. Anyways, I read 10 books and I have tons of reading stats and fun things to talk to you today. Before we start the video, if you haven't seen my social media yet, which if you don't follow me, go do that. That will be linked down below. I got my driver's license. Woohoo! I am so happy to say that I have my driver's license now, and it's been, if you know me, it's been a long time coming. And I actually drove myself to karate last night for the first time ever, by myself, obviously, and that was just such a fun ride, no pun intended, to do. Anyways, we're not going to talk about that. You'll hear more about that in my weekly vlog. But we are here for my March wrap-up. Like I said, I've read 10 books, so let's just jump into my reading stats, and then we'll go through all the books that I read and what star rating I gave them. So, starting out with my star ratings and my other stats that I do. I had 0 1 star, 0 2 star, 4 3 stars, 3 4 stars, 3 5 stars, which I was happy about that. 6 of these were audiobooks that I listened to. 2 of these were arcs. Yeah, 2 of these were arcs that I had. 1 was a buddy read. 0 book of the month options that I have. 0 completed series, but I did caught up on a lot of series that I read this year, so I'm excited about that. 2 graphic novels, 3 library books. 4 of these, listen to this, 4 of these I physically read. I mean, 2 of them are graphic novels, but still, 4 of these I physically read, and I'm so excited to talk about them. 4 of these were also 2023 new releases, and 3 of these were on my TBR list that I made for my TBR video. So that's pretty funny that I only read 3 out of like however many it was. My smallest book of the month is being one of my graphic novels, and that's The Demon in the Wood by Leigh Bardugo. This is coming in at 203 pages. And then my biggest book of the month, which I was actually shocked because I read like 3 books over 500 pages, but my biggest book of the month is The Jasmine Throne, coming in at 533 pages. We'll talk more about this one later on because this is a 5-star read for me, and we'll talk more in a few minutes of why this was a 5-star read for me. And then my favorite book of the month, is probably These Infinite Threads, which I bought myself a finished copy this week, or Promise Boys, which I don't have yet, but I'm hoping to get soon. Promise Boys by Nick Brooks. So yeah, those are all my stats. Also, I don't know if I said my page count, but my page count this month was 3,646 pages. So yay me. So let's jump into my books I've read. These are in the order I read them, from like the first book of the month to the last book of the month. And let me know if you guys like that format, or if you like it where people talk about them in star order, like star rating orders. Let me know down in the comments if I should change up my wrap-ups or not. So, without further ado, let's talk about my February book club pick. Now, if you don't know, I have a book club called Queerreads that I run on Instagram, which we also have an account for Queerreads, so I'll leave that down below. But our February book of the month, I finished this like the first two or three days of March, because we had an author interview with this awesome lady, and that is Song of Silver Flame Like Night by Amelia Wenzel. This was a fantastic epic journey that we went through with the characters, and also just me discovering a new author that I've enjoyed from. I know she's very popular with the Blood Heir trilogy, which I haven't read yet, but I definitely want to go out and get myself a copy of it and see if I like it, because this was just such a fun. There's morally great characters, there's enemies to lovers, plot twist I did not see coming, and a hero's quest, or hero's journey I should say. But yeah, if you love morally great characters and very like funny banter between two characters, you would definitely love this. I would say, even though they're not really in a relationship, I would say this also has the grumpy and the sunshine trope in this book, because if you read this book, you know. I was so thankful for Amelia for being the first author to say yes for an author interview for our book club, and hosting that giveaway for you guys was really fun. So if you're not following me over on Instagram, you guys should really do, because you're missing out on a bunch of giveaways and just like fun author chats. So I won't be talking too much about this. I would say this was a 4-star read for me. I was gonna give it 5, but thinking after like all of our discussions that we had, like either in my group chat or just with Amelia or herself, I gave this 4 stars. So it's still a great book, and I still think you guys will really love this. It's hard for me to talk about, but I did found new favorite characters in here, and that is Lon and Ren, right? Zen. Sorry, thinking of another book. Lon and Zen, they are just... Zen was super funny. Lon was a smart, powerful female main character that we read from. She was a little whiny in the very beginning of the book, but once she discovered what happened, she was not so much whiny, if that makes sense. But yeah, I have an author chat, which I'll leave down below, so enough said. I really enjoyed this. I cannot wait for book 2. I wonder what book 2 is gonna be called, because this is only going to be a duology, I believe, or it might be a trilogy. I can't remember what Amelia said in the author chat. But thank you again, Amelia, for hosting that giveaway with us and for doing the author live chat. I loved it so much, and I cannot wait to check out the Blood Heir trilogy by you. The next book I read was one of my arcs that I needed to get. Also, before I go on, Song of Silver Flame Like Night, I was able to put a review in for my NetGalley arcs, because that was one of my arcs. Anyways, another arc that I had on NetGalley that I needed to read and review for was 3 Kisses, 1 Midnight by Rashani Chakshay, Evelyn Sky, and Senia Menon. This is a YA fantasy with a little bit of romance in here. This was a collaborated work of authors, obviously. I read books by all these authors, so it was really fun trying to figure out which one wrote what story. I would say I wasn't a huge fan of this one. I think I would have loved this more if I read it during the fall time. And if I'm not mistaken, this came out in the fall of last year, so it would have been like the perfect setting to read this book in. And it was so short, so I don't know why it took me so long to read this book. It literally took me like 2 or 3 days to read this, and it has one of my least favorite tropes in here, which is miscommunication. I didn't really love that, but the way that these stories interweave with each other and all the characters got to like meet up was kind of cool. I would say I think my favorite story was the last one, actually. I forgot what it was. It was like 1 minute till midnight or something it was called. I'm so sorry. But yeah, some of these characters felt lackluster to me a little bit, and I hate being negative towards the book. But overall, I gave this one a 3 stars. It's definitely my lowest read of the month, and I'm so sad to say that, because I really love every single book by all 3 of these authors. So maybe I'll like something else individually by them. But overall, I give this 3 stars, and it helped me got my NetGalley score up. So thank you to myself for that. The next book I read, I don't own because I read it. I actually physically read this one from my public library. I also talked about this in my weekly vlog for March, so I have that up above or down below. And that is Promise Boys by Nick Brooks. Again, I'm not good at putting pictures up on the screen, so I won't do that. But Promise Boys by Nick Books is set at a boarding school, with all male boarding school, and one day their principal is shot dead. This is not a spoiler because it's literally in the summary of the book, and we follow our 3 main characters, TJ, Belle, and somebody else. I'm actually gonna look it up on Goodreads because I totally forgot their characters' names, and I'm so sorry. For me, giving this 5-star reads, it's terrible that I've already forgot the character's name. But then again, it is like April 4th, and I read this early on in March. Let me see. Yeah, it says a blockbuster dark academic mystery about 3 teens of colors who must investigate their principal murder to clear their own names. This page-turning thriller is perfect for fans of Karen McManus, Jason Reynolds, Angie Thomas, and Holly Jackson. And it also says the Urban Promise Prep School might look pristine on the outside, but deadly secrets lurk within. When the principal ends up murdered on the school premises and the cops come sniffing around, a trio of students, JB, Roman, and Trey, emerge as the prime suspect. They all had means, they all had motives, and they may have had the murder weapon. But with all 3 maintaining their innocence, they must band together to track down the real killer before they are arrested. Or is the true culprit hiding among them? Find out who killed Principal Moore in Nick Book's murder mystery, Promise Boy. The hate you give means one of us is lying. So yeah, that was the summary of the book. But yeah, each of the boys, I was like, he did it. And then I kept reading and I was like, no, he did it. So I was second guessing myself. And then when it came to that ending of that book, I did not see that twist coming. I was like, I did not suspect them to be the killer. So that's why it got a 5-star read for me. And also the chapters, if you know me personally, you know anytime I have short chapters in a book, I'm gonna love it immediately because it's just so short, you know. And it literally took me like 2 to 3 days to read that one because it's only like 304 pages. So not too big of a book, and it's one that I definitely want to get in my library collection. So I'm very happy to say I really enjoyed that one. It was a 5-star read. And also I loved the epilogue of that book. The epilogue is what also made it a 5-star read because it was just so sweet and wholesome after a hard-hitting subject matter throughout the book. I would say definitely check out trigger warnings. There are a lot of trigger warnings for this book, so check that out before you read Promise Boys. But what a great debut novel, and I cannot wait to read more from Nick Books. So the next book was also a library read, but as you saw early on in the video, I bought a copy of this from my Amazon wishlist. So, well, actually, I didn't buy this. My mom bought this for me. My mom bought me a finished copy of These Infinite Threads by Tahara Rafi. This was another 5-star read for me. I literally have all 3 of my 3-star or 5-star reads be right back to back to back. I was just like, having a great time with all these reads. Anyways, back to These Infinite Threads. If you don't know, this is the sequel and follow-up novel to... my paperbacks are falling. Sorry. This is the sequel / follow-up to This Woven Kingdom, which was a 5-star read for me. And I really loved it. And at the time of reading... excuse me. At the time of reading This Woven Kingdom, I didn't realize it was a Cinderella retelling until after I saw a lot of people talk about it, and I was like, oh yeah, I can definitely see this as a Cinderella retelling. So if you love that, definitely check out this trilogy so far. I would say I'm pretty mad that I read this one super fast, and I definitely want to do a reread of this because now that I have my own physical copy, I want to go back and tab like my favorite scenes, my favorite quotes, some of my favorite, you know, just things in this book that I loved. I actually took pictures of them, that way I can like go back and look. Carmen was a funny main character as well. He was another male character who made me laugh. The way he was just yelling at everybody in this book, I was like, okay boy, you need to calm down. But I would say I didn't notice this until somebody else on Book Talk pointed this out, that the trope of the female main character not knowing anything, that was kind of annoying. But I didn't caught it at the time, but now looking back, I'm like, oh yeah, there was that trope in this book. But there's also like, I keep saying there's enemies to lovers in like all my books, but that's like the only trope I really love. So there's enemies to lovers, there is forced proximity, and it's just a fun YA fantasy book that is about dragons. There's dragons in here as well. And the ending of this was even crazier than what book 1's ending was. And we have no news about book 3 or if there will be a book 3. But the way that this ended, I'm pretty sure there's going to be a 3rd book. Anyways, if you can't tell, I've really enjoyed this. This was a 5-star read for me. And I talked more about this one in my March weekly vlog that I did. So again, that video will be above or down below. But yeah, I cannot wait to see what happens in book 3. Hopefully that's not the final book of the trilogy, and if it is, I'm gonna be so sad that I read this trilogy so fast. Next book I have is my biggest book of the month, and that was The Jasmine Throne by Tashi Shuri. This is the first book in a new adult fantasy series that I heard nothing but amazing things about. This was a very hyped and very popular adult fantasy series, and you guys were right when you guys said that I needed to get book 2 as soon as I bought book 1. You guys were not wrong. You guys were right. I should have listened to you guys. You guys are always right usually. But when you guys said I needed to get book 2, I should have got book 2 when I was at the store. But I do have book 2 in my hands now. I don't know if I'll read it in April because I already have a lot of big books on my April TBR. If you saw that video, it will be linked up above or down below. Definitely go check it out, please. But anyways, back to The Jasmine Throne. This is a first book in an adult fantasy series that is highly recommended here on BookTube, and I can see why. This has a female-female relationship in here, and it has, let's see, morally gray characters, totally has that in here. It also is very heavy on the political aspect of this fantasy world, which I wasn't a huge fan of, and I'm not a huge fan of that in general. So it wasn't my favorite part of the book. But when they got to like all the battle scenes in here and like the plot twist at the end of this book is what made me get a 5-star read. And I fell in love with both of the female characters. So we have a lot of POVs in this book, but the two that we mainly follow is Prim, right? Ooh, where's the name? Oh yeah, Priya and not Ashok. Ashok was an interesting character to read about, but we mainly follow Melina and Priya, which are the two main characters we mostly follow from. And Melina was a smart and witty main character, and I really love reading from their point of view, so I cannot wait to see what happens in the sequel. Once again, I don't know if I'll read it right away or if I'll wait a little bit, because book 3 do not come out till 2024. It was supposed to come out this year, but I saw on Goodreads that it got pushed back to 2024. So I'm a little sad about that, but that will give me plenty of time to catch up on this series and then do a reread of the trilogy. So hopefully I love book 2. It's a lot shorter than book 1, which has me intrigued by that. So I hope I really enjoy book 2. But yeah, overall, I really love this. This is very urban fantasy and also a little bit of high fantasy as well. It says, trapped by her apostate brother within the crumbling walls of an ancient temple, Princess Melina's dreams of vengeance. Forced to disavow her birthright and her power because of her past, maid servant Priya dreams of freedom. In a world best by wild magic and turbulent uprising, their destinies will become evocal tangled, and together they will set an empire ablaze. Like, it sounds so good. It was really just a fun fantasy read that I was shocked I read so fast, but also so happy. So I also buddy read this with my friend Lori, but my friend Lori sadly had to DNF it. But Lori, I think you will really love this one once you get back into fantasy, and if you do, let me know what you think of this. But yeah, this was a 5-star read for me, and I hope I love the sequel just as much as I love book 1. The next book that I read for a review that I have to do, and I still need to post that review now that I'm thinking of it. But I finally picked up The Bells by Danielle Clayton. This is a first book in a brand new series, and I've read books by Danielle Clayton before, and I really love them. And no surprise here, I really love this one. Thank you, Jamie, for putting me on a book tour for this. I'm so sorry that my review was not up in time, but I definitely am going to do a book series review on this on my channel, so I cannot wait to do that. Look forward to that video coming sometimes this month, because I still need to finish this one, obviously. So The Bells follow our main character named Camellia, and she is in this trial/competition, which, if you know me, I love those in books. Really, that's like my favorite setting of a book. And it's just, The Bells is like where you get your magic from, and it's just like you control the beauty of how somebody look and how the way they talk and all that. It's kind of hard for me to explain what books are about. I really did not see the ending of this one. I did not see it coming, and I had this book on my shelf for quite a while now. I gave my hardcover copy to my friend Taylor, so she has the beautiful hardcover copy. But I would say I love these covers that Disney did recently. So yeah, thank you so much, Jamie, for putting me on the tour for this, and thank you, Disney Books, for sending these to read and review my way. I am enjoying this series, and I cannot wait to see how this ends. I would say the prince in this book made me super mad. There was a lot of stuff that really ticked me off when I was reading it from his point of view. Especially the ending of it was a little frustrating. I cannot imagine people waiting a whole year for the sequel, but I'm happy I have all 3 books to binge read this month. I'm definitely reading book 2 and 3 in April, so I'm looking forward to seeing how we continue / how we end this trilogy. Camille is my new favorite character as well. She was just so smart and witty, and she was fun to read about. But yeah, there was a lot of like backstabbing from other characters in this book as well as I read it, and I was like, I don't like this. But overall, I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. I really did enjoy the story overall, but there was just a few little things that kind of made me annoyed. But anyways, I really enjoyed this, 4 out of 5 stars, and I hope I like the rest of the trilogy. The next book that I read for spring into reading. Also, by the way, The Jasmine Throne was to read a book that intimidates you. And this next book that I have is for read a book with flowers on the cover. And this is one of the 4 books that I physically read this month. My friend Sydney, who you guys know and love, she read this book last year, and it's funny, we actually started to read this out loud to each other over FaceTime last year, but I just never continued physically reading it at the time, so I waited like a whole year to pick it up. And so that is Tyler Johnson Was Here by J. Coles. I actually tabbed this book up, so all these tabs are like my favorite quotes and favorite scenes and some shocking moments in here. This is another book where I say definitely check out the trigger warnings before you get to this book, because there are a lot of homophobias in here, and death of a family member and police brutality. Overall, it was an okay book. It wasn't my favorite read of the month. I sadly give this 3 stars. There was just a lot of like whining in this book, and it also, the main character had a romance that I think that the romance was unnecessary. It was a cute romance for what this book was, but the whole time I was physically reading this, I couldn't help but compare it to The Hate You Give by Andy Thomas. I was like, I would have loved this one more when I read The Hate You Give. But yeah, it's You Love the Hate You Give. I say check this out, but definitely check out Trigger Warnings. Won't really say too much about this because it's a YA standalone and I don't want to spoil you guys of what happened in here. But it is definitely a heavy hitter, and it didn't make me cry, but I was shocked by a few things that was happening in this book. And overall, I'll give this a 3 out of 5 stars. My next book that I read, I don't own because I borrowed this from my Hoopla, which is a ebook / audiobook app that you can get through your library, and that is Teen Titan Robin by Kimmy Garcia. This was one of my most anticipated reads of the year, and it was kind of a letdown. And I'm so sad because I read it so quickly and I read it late at night as well. I give this 3 stars because it introduced a new character to us, which if you saw the book news from Kimmy Garcia, you know who it is. But that new character and the way that it ended, it just ended. It was like, here's a new character, and then bam, here's the ending. And I was like, what? I need more. It was an interesting read. I'll definitely want to get a physical copy. That way I can complete the rest of the series that I have on my bookshelf. But yeah, it was kind of a letdown. The artwork was really nice to look at, and there wasn't any like wow moments for me, sadly. I would, if you know me, as a huge fantasy reader, I love a good like battle / action scene between the hero and the villain, and that was in this book. But other than that, it wasn't like standing out to me, sadly. So I give that 3 out of 5 stars. The next book actually really shocked me of how much I enjoyed this one. I read this for spring into reading, and this was for a book that has vacation / travel, and oh my god, this has so much traveling in this book, and that is A Broken Blade by Melissa Blair. This is her first book in a new adult fantasy series, and oh my god, I cannot wait for book 2, which is A Shadow Crown, I believe. That comes out May 9th, so I'm definitely going to pre-order that here soon. And I cannot wait to see what it looks like in person because it's so pretty in people's video who has early copies. I read this in like 3 to 4 days, and it was so hard to put down. This has been getting compared to Throne of Glass by Sarah J Maas, obviously. And I can see that comparison, but it's also very different. There is some fae in here, there's elves, there's like little woodland creatures in here. The romance kind of threw me off a little bit, and I like a good romance, but not when it was not needed, you know? And again, this book had short chapters as well. And like I said with Promise Boys, you guys know if there's a book with short chapters, I would really love it. It wasn't quite a 5-star read for me because there was a lot of talk about the main character being not drunk, but like she was drinking a lot and all that, so I was a little uncomfortable about that. But there's obviously trigger warnings literally in the beginning of the book, so I knew it was gonna happen. And also, I just want to read this dedication because if you don't know who Melissa is, she is on Book Talk, and I'm so happy to say I really enjoy this book. But listen to this dedication real quick. It says, "This book is dedicated to Book Talk creators and viewers alike. It wouldn't exist without you. Love, one of your own." And funny thing about this, if you don't know about it already, this book was having an anonymous author at first when it first came out, and then like a month or 2 later, the author revealed herself, and so literally it was a Broken Blade by Anonymous up on the top, but now we know who it is, and I'm super excited to say I actually follow Melissa. So Melissa, can I have book 2 please? Just kidding. I'm pre-ordering book 2 already, but anyways, I cannot wait to see where this story goes because this was an ending that I did not see coming. The kind of secret agent in this book I did not see coming as well, and this is another book where morally great characters, forced proximity, and it also has short chapters, which is not a trope, but it's just something that I love in a book. And there was a found family in here as well, so that's another trope that I really love. So if you have not picked up this book yet, definitely do it. Oh, also Kira, our main character, is bisexual, and so that's very interesting to read about, and I really enjoyed this. And I'm excited to see where we go in book 2. And the final book that I have to talk to you guys today was also a 3-star read, so I hate ending a video on a sour note, but we have The Demon in the Woods by Leigh Bardugo. This is a graphic novel that came out last year, and it was one of my most anticipated reads of the year, and it kind of was a letdown. And I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for saying this because I have a lot of friends who are huge fans of the Queerreads universe, but this actually made me want to reread the whole universe again, which I'm actually doing that for April. I forgot to mention that in my TBR video. But I read this in March, that way I can read this first, because this was my first time reading it, and the artwork in here was well done. I loved how quick and easy it was. I literally read this in like one sitting, and it was just so fun and fast-paced of a novel. And the like writing of it wasn't very confusing like some of her other books are. So I think having Leigh Bardugo as a graphic novel person was definitely an easier read for me. But the reason why I give this 3 stars is I feel like, his fake name is Eric, but yeah, Eric, I'm just gonna say Eric, even though it's really about the Darkling. The stuff that the Darkling did in his past was a little weird, and I don't know, it was just a little weird, and some of the stuff that he did in this book of like the way that he can kill people just right then and there, which was scary to see in the book, but I overall really did enjoy this, I guess. I really can't do a summary without like spoiling the whole book. But yeah, definitely check this out if you have not read this book, and if you are a huge Grisha fan. Oh my gosh, I cannot speak. But yeah, this is the final book I read for March, and I give this 3 out of 5 stars. So there you have it. Those are all the 10 books that I read for March. I'm so sorry this was such a long video for you guys. Let me know down in the comments what you read this month. And here's your question of the day. What was your 5-star read? And what was your, if you had a 3-star read, or if you had anything lower than a 5-star, what was that rating? Let me know down below. And if you made it this far, let's see, leave a book emoji down in the comments. It doesn't have to be a certain one, just a book emoji to let me know that you made it all the way through. Thank you guys for sticking with me, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a big thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, turn your notification on so you don't miss any new videos coming from me Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays when I post them. And I'll talk to you guys down in the comments below. And remember, always be happy and enjoy life. Bye.